Question 1A. Give 6 reasons why the learning of Christian religious education promotes equity. 6 marks. Equity is equality. Number 1, CRE teaches oneness, or rather common origin or common destiny. 2, learners acquire Christian virtues which promotes equity. For example, love. Or you can say learners acquire Christian virtues which promotes equality. CRE teaches about togetherness in Jesus. CRE teaches learners to appreciate people's religion and culture. That is, we are all equal. CRE condemns social injustices. Example of this social injustice is, for example, discrimination. Because we believe that all are equal in the eyes of God. 6, CRE teaches male and female are equal before God. Question 1B. Describe the translation of the Bible from its original language into local Kenyan languages. 7 marks. So you have to start that the Old Testament was written in Hebrew. Between the Old and the New Testament, and the New Testament was written in? Between the Old and the New Testament, which one was written in Greek? The New Testament. Because people are confusing. I don't know why you are confused here. The Old Testament was written in Hebrew, and then the New Testament was written or was translated into Greek. Sorry? The Old Testament was written in Hebrew, and the New Testament was written in Greek. Then the whole Bible was translated into Latin. The Bible was directly translated from Greek now into English, then into other European languages. From English, it was translated into Kiswahili by the missionaries. Then it was translated into local African languages. And remember that the Bible's translation into local African languages is still ongoing. So whichever, even if you put somewhere Ludwig Craft, I was still giving you, but you had to follow. They had to follow the stages. If you miss one stage, you're supposed to get wrong. Question C. Identify 7 ways in which Christians can avoid sin. 7 marks. Obeying God's law, or you can say obeying God's commandment. Being prayerful. Avoiding selfish desires. Seeking guidance and counseling. Avoiding a bad company or peer influence, or you can call it peer pressure. Avoiding drugs and alcohol abuse. You also avoid places that can make one vulnerable. And you can also avoid sin by not misusing freedom. Question 2A. Describe the covenant ceremony between God and Abraham in Genesis chapter 15, verse 1 to 9. Can someone read Genesis chapter 15, verse 1 to 9?
Genesis chapter 15, verse 1 to 9. After these things, the Lord came to Abraham in a vision. Fear not, Abraham, I am your shield. Your reward shall be very great. Abraham said, O God, what wilt thou give me? For I continue childless, and the heir of my house, Eliezer of Damascus. And Abraham said, Behold, thou hast given me no offspring, and a slave born in my house will bear my hair. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him, This man shall not be your heir, your own son shall be your heir. And he brought him outside and said, Look toward heaven and number the stars, if you are able to number them. Then he said to him, So shall your descendants be. And he believed the Lord, and he reckoned it to him as righteousness. And he said to him, I am the Lord who brought you from Ur to the Chaldeans to give you this land to possess. But he said, O Lord God, how am I to know that I shall possess it? He said to him, Bring me a heifer 3 years old, a she-goat 3 years old, a ram 3 years old, a turtle dove, and a young pigeon.
Mm-hmm. So continue because of the covenant ceremony.
And he brought him all these, cut them in two, and laid each half over against the other, but did not cut the birds in two. And when the birds' prey came down upon the carcasses, Abraham drove them away. As the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell on Abraham, and lo, a dread and great darkness fell upon him. Then the Lord said to Abraham, Know of a certainty that your descendants will be sojourners in a land that is not theirs, and will be slaves there, and they will be oppressed of 400 years. But I will bring judgment on the nation which they serve, and afterward they shall come out with great possessions. And as for yourself, you shall go to your fathers in peace. You shall be buried in a good old age, and they shall come back here in the fourth generation, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete. When the sun had gone down, and it was dark, behold, a smoking fire pot and a flaming torch passed between these pieces. On that day the Lord made a covenant with Abraham, saying, To your descendants I give this land, from the river of Egypt to the great river, the river of Euphrates, the land of the Canaanites, and the Kenizzites, and the Cadmonites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Rephaim, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Girgashites, and the Jebusites.
So God appeared to Abraham in a vision. And Abraham was disturbed for not having a son in his old age. And Abraham thought that a slave from his house would be his heir. So God assured him a son. And he also assured him that his descendants would be as many as stars. Abraham believed God's promises. He reminded Abraham from where he had brought him from. And God told him to bring him the following: 3-year-old heifer, 3-year-old she-goat, 3-year-old lamb, a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. Abraham brought them, cut them into halves, and laid each half opposite the other. Remember that what was not supposed to be cut into half? The birds. So some birds of the prey came into the carcasses, and Abraham drove away the birds of the prey that came into the carcasses. At sunset, Abraham fell into a deep sleep. God gave Abraham other promises: a smoking firepot and a flaming torch. So at night, a smoking firepot and a flaming torch passed in between the offering, and God made a covenant with Abraham. Question 2b, explain the characteristics of a covenant demonstrated in the covenant between God and Abraham. There are two parties which are involved, which is God and Abraham. Promises were made. God made several promises. There was a sign, which was circumcision. The covenant was sealed through sacrifices of the animals. It also had a ceremony whereby Abraham offered the animals for sacrifices, and their birds, that is. Question 2c, what is the importance of Decalogue to Christians today? Some of you never knew what Decalogue is. It's the 10 Commandments. It encourages Christians to practice monotheism. It makes Christians aware of their sacredness of sex. Teaches Christians to uphold the sanctity of life. Here we're talking about being aware of the sacredness of sex because we are told you should not what? Practice adultery. Teaches Christians to uphold the sanctity of life. Enable Christians to honor God and observe the Sabbath day. Enables Christians to be honest in their dealings with others. It guards them against the worship of idols, or you can say it guards them against the idols of today. It guides them to respect other people, or you can say it guides them to respect their parents. It reminds them to respect other people's properties. Question 3a, outline 7 duties of Samuel in Israel. So here you're being asked the duties of who? Churches. Number 1, he interceded between God and the Israelites and asked them to worship God alone. He made sacrifices to God on behalf of the Israelites. He built an altar to God at Ramah. He settled disputes among the Israelites. He led Israelites to war against their enemies. He advised the Israelites against a king and the dangers of having an earthly king. He anointed Saul as the first king and David as the second king of Israel. So you can say he anointed Saul and David. He condemned King Saul for his foolish acts and prophesied to him that the kingdom will not endure. Question 3b, describe how Prophet Elijah fought against corruption and injustice in Israel as found in 1 Kings chapter 21. Can we read 1 Kings? If you're told to describe, you know very well it is a story that you're doing what? So describe it.
And after this Ahab said to Nabal, give me your vineyard, and I may have it for a vegetable garden, because it is near my house, and I will give you a better vineyard for it. Or, if it seems good to you, I will give you its value in money. But Naboth said to Ahab, the Lord forbid that I shall give you the inheritance of my fathers. And Ahab went into his house vexed and silent because of what Naboth the Jezreelite had said to him. For he had said, I will not give you the inheritance of my fathers. And he lay down on his bed and turned away his face and could eat no food. But Jezebel his wife came to him and said to him, why is your spirit so vexed that you eat no food? And he said to her, because I spoke to Naboth the Jezreelite and said to him, give me your vineyard for money, or else, if it please you, I will give you another vineyard for it. And he answered, I will not give you my vineyard. And Jezebel his wife said to him, do you now govern Israel? Arise and eat bread, and let your heart be cheerful. I will give you the vineyard of Naboth the Jezebel. So she wrote letters in Ahab's name and sealed them with his seal. And she sent the letters to the elders and the nobles who dwelt with Naboth in his city. And she wrote in the letters, proclaim a fast and set Naboth on high among the people, and set two base fellows opposite him, and let them bring a charge against him, saying, you have cursed God and the king. Then take him out and stone him to death. And the men of the city, the elders and the nobles who dwelt in his city, did as Jezebel had sent word to them, as it was written in the letters which she had sent to them. They proclaimed a fast and set Naboth on high among the people. And the two base fellows came in and sat opposite him. And the base fellows brought a charge against Naboth in the presence of the people, saying, Naboth cursed God and the king. So they took him outside the city and stoned him to death with stones. Then they sent to Jezebel, saying, Naboth has been stoned, he is dead. As soon as Jezebel heard that Naboth had been stoned and was dead, Jezebel said to Ahab, arise, take a position of the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite, which he refused to give you for money, for Naboth is not alive but dead. And as soon as Ahab heard that Naboth was dead, Ahab arose to go down to the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite to take possession of it. Then the word of the Lord came to Elijah the Tishbite, saying, arise, go down to meet Ahab king of Israel, who is in Samaria. Behold, he is in the vineyard of Naboth, where he has gone to take possession. And you shall say to him, thus says the Lord, have you killed and also taken possession? And you shall say to him, thus says the Lord, in the place where dogs licked up the blood of Naboth shall dogs lick your own blood. Ahab said to Elijah, have you found me, O my enemy? He answered, I have found you, because you have sold yourself to do what is evil in the sight of the Lord. Behold, I will bring evil upon you. I will utterly sweep you away, and will cut off from Ahab every male born or free in Israel. And I will make your house like the house of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, and like the house of Baasha the son of Ahijah, for the anger to which you have provoked me, and because you have made the Israelites to sin. And of Jezebel, the Lord also said, the dogs shall eat Jezebel within the bounds of Jezreel, and none belonging to Ahab who dies in the city of dogs shall eat, and anyone of whose own dies in the open country, the birds of the air shall eat. There was none who sold himself to do what was evil in the sight of the Lord like Ahab, whom Jezebel his wife incited. He did very abominably in going after idols, as the Amorites had done, whom the Lord cast out before the people of Israel. And then Ahab heard those words. He rent his clothes and put sackcloth upon his flesh, and fasted and lay in sackcloth, and went out dejectedly. And the word of the Lord came to Elijah the Tishbite, saying, Have you seen how Ahab has humbled himself before me? Because he has humbled himself before me, I will not bring the evil in his days, but his son's days I will bring the evil upon his house.
So Ahab coveted Naboth's vineyard, which was adjacent to the palace. So he offered to buy it, but Naboth refused because it was a family what? Inheritance. The king was depressed, but Jezebel planned a corrupt scheme to acquire it. This led to the stoning death of Naboth as punishment. Ahab went and possessed the land. God sent Elijah to go and pronounce judgment on the house of Ahab. Ahab was remorseful, and God promised to effect punishment during the reign of his sons. What you forgot is about how God pronounced judgment on the house of Ahab, and how God promised to effect the what? The punishment during the reign of his sons. Those are 2 points that you forgot. Those who did not get the full mark. Question 3C. Give 6 reasons why Christians should fight against spread of devil worship in Kenya today. It is against God's commandments, so Christians have a duty to fight it. Because it advocates for human destruction. It advocates for materialism as a guiding principle to man's success. Devil worship leads to lack of faith, or it leads to not relying to God. Rituals involved in devil worship are dehumanizing, because sometimes you're told you should sacrifice, you should offer human sacrifice. So that's why you're seeing most of them are dehumanizing. Christians fight devil worship to warn people of God's judgment if they do not turn back to Him. It instills fear on God's people. Question 4A. Identify 6 methods used by Old Testament prophets to pass on their messages. Through sermons or public speeches, through symbolic actions or symbolic demonstrations, by written letters to the audience, by use of family life situations, that is what we call personal experience, by performing miracles, through dialogue with the audience, through songs. Some had disciples. Question 4B. Outline the teaching of Prophet Amos on the Israel election. Number 1 is that Israel election was not of God's own initiative. God delivered the Israelites out of bondage in Egypt. He led them during the Exodus. He protected them in the wilderness. He defeated all their enemies. He gave them a special land to invent. God raised prophets among them to lead them in religious life. God was to punish the Israelites because of their disobedience. Question 4C. State 6 ways through which prophecy is practiced in the church today. 6 marks. It is used by pastors and priests to condemn evils in the society. How you ask how you practice, you just say what the prophets in the church or what the church leaders or like the pastor and the priest, what do they practice? Because they are prophets. So number 1, it is used by pastors and priests to condemn evils in the society. It is used to foretell God's plan for His people. It helps pastors and priests to win converts for Christ through the interpretation of the gospel. It helps pastors and priests to win converts for Christ through the interpretation of the gospel. It provides hope to the hopeless. It strengthens Christians' faith during suffering or time of difficulties. It strengthens Christians' faith during suffering or time of difficulties. It enables Christians to live exemplary lives. It enables the Christians to know the will of God. Question 5a, state 8 occasions when Nehemiah prayed. This question has been repeated often. Before asking King Artaxerxes to let him go back to Judah, when he learned that the Jewish in Judah were suffering and the walls was in ruins, so yes, the city was in ruins, when enemies made fun of the Jews and discouraged them from rebuilding the wall of Jerusalem, when the enemies conspired to attack Jerusalem to stop the construction work, Nehemiah also prayed after he condemned the rich for oppressing the poor, when his enemies planned to harm him, when he was frightened by Shemaiah to hide in the temple, claiming that there was a plot to kill him, when he cleansed and recognized the temple worship, when he cleansed and reorganized the temple for worship, after warning the people of Judah against violating the Sabbath law, when he chased away the son-in-law of Sanballat, after cleansing the Israelites of foreign influence. Question 5b, outline the promises that the Israelites made when they renewed their covenant with God during the time of Nehemiah. Can we read Nehemiah chapter 10, verse 28 to 39?
The rest of the people, the priests, the Levites, the gatekeepers, the singers, the temple servants, and all who have separated themselves from the people of the land to the law of God, their wives, their sons, their daughters, all who have knowledge and understanding, join with their brethren, their nobles, and enter into a cast and are not to walk in God's law, which was given by Moses, the servant of God, and to observe and do all the commandments of the Lord our Lord, and his ordinances and his statutes. We will not give our daughters to the people of the land, or take their daughters for our sons. And if the people of the land bring in wares or any grain on the Sabbath day to sell, we will not buy from them on the Sabbath or an holy day. And we will forego the crops of the seventh year and the exactions of every day. We also lay upon ourselves the obligation to charge ourselves yearly with the third part of our shekel for the service of the house of our God. For the showbread, the continual cereal offering, the continual burnt offering, the Sabbath, the new moons, the appointed feast, the holy beans, and the sin offering to make atonement for Israel, and for all the work of the house of our God. We have witnessed cast lots, the priests, the Levites, and the people, for the wood offering to bring into the house of our God, according to our fathers' houses, a time appointed, year by year, to burn upon the altar of the Lord our God, as it is written in the law. We obligate ourselves to bring the first fruits of our ground and the first fruits of all fruits of every tree, year by year, to the house of the Lord. Also to bring to the house of our God, to the priests who minister in the house of our God, the firstborn of our sons and of our cattle, as it is written in the law, and the firstlings of our herds and of our flocks, and to bring the first of our course meat and our contribution, the first
the fruit of every tree, the wine and the oil, to the priest, to the chambers of the house of our God, and to bring to the Levites the tithes from our grounds. For it is the Levites who collect the tithes in all our rural towns. And the priest, the son of Aaron, shall be with the Levites when the Levites receive the tithes, and the Levites shall bring up the tithe of the tithes to the house of our God, to the chambers, to the storehouse. For the people of the Israel and the sons of Levi shall bring the contribution of grain, wine, and oil to the chambers. Where are the vessels of the sanctuary, and the priests that minister, and the gatekeepers and the singers? We will not neglect the house of our God.
So we'll continue